just immerse, bro.
Now, you may have seen these words on r/learnjapanese or heard it from some dude in a Discord server. They've basically become the holy gospel of language learning, especially when it comes to Japanese. But is it really that simple? I don't know about you guys, but if getting fluent in Japanese was as simple as just watching a bunch of anime, well then every weeb and otaku out there would be absolutely cracked at the language, myself included. I mean, just look at my anime list profile, seriously. But in reality, it took me years of setbacks, mistakes, and figuring things out the hard way to learn what I'm about to share with you in just one video. So today, we're going to be breaking down the most important things that actually make immersion work at every level, beginner to advanced. So if you haven't already, you're going to want to get this and this. The core 2K6K is a collection of the most common words in the Japanese language. Meaning once you memorize these bang for your buck words, you're going to be able to instantly comprehend more Japanese content. And then a grammar guide, such as Taikim's Grammar, Sakubi, or Yokubi. And if you want something a bit more in-depth and structured, then you can also read books like Genki 1 and 2. After this, you'll have a solid baseline approach to Japanese and you'll be ready to watch content. So the first and probably most important part of the beginner stage is choosing the right content. If you dive into something too hard, you're going to come across way too many unknown words and your mental stamina is going to dwindle. Versus choosing something easy with a good balance of comprehension and something that's still interesting to you, you're going to be able to watch for a longer period of time. Luckily for us, there is a wonderful website, jpdb.io, that has a database of anime. It tells us how many unique words are in it, how long they are, the difficulty, and even the anime rating, so you can see how good something is. If you want to pick up words from the content you're watching, it'd probably help if you'd be able to parse them, actually read the words on your screen. And one issue I see come up all the time, as a Crunchyroll subscriber myself, is that they make it literally impossible to turn on Japanese subtitles. There's a really good free workaround for this, and I'm going to show you right now. First off, head over to jimaku.cc. They have subtitles for literally every anime under the sun. Next, you want to get a Chrome extension called ASB Player. This lets you drag and drop those subtitles onto literally any video file on the internet. Okay, great. So you found content you like, you've got your Japanese subtitles, but now what? How do you actually learn from it? So first, you want to download a very important tool, Anki. It's a free SRS flashcard app that shows you words right when you're about to forget them. And we're going to be pairing it with one other essential tool to pull words from anime and learn words in context. Now the last piece of the puzzle is Yomi-chan. This creates flashcards from your anime and is going to feed it into Anki for you to review later. Now when you're reviewing vocabulary in Anki, you're going to want the definition on the back of the flashcard, of course, and we can automate this completely by getting dictionaries and plugging them into Yomi-chan. Now one other question that comes up a ton is, how do I know which words are worth mining? How do I know that I'm not mining something completely obscure that I will never use in my Japanese life? Yomi-chan also supports frequency lists so that when you hover over a word, it'll tell you how commonly used it is. Most people recommend that when starting out, you only mine within the top 10,000 most common words. Now, if you want a more in-depth tutorial on getting these and other tools set up, then my boy Bjorn's got a great video out on that right now, link in the description. But man, in this day and age of convenience, wouldn't it be great if there was some app out there that took all these mining tools and, I don't know, combined them all into one? Thank you to Migaku for sponsoring today's video. If you're serious about learning Japanese through immersion, then Migaku is one of the best tools out there for turning real content into actual progress. Instead of studying random word lists, Migaku lets you learn directly from the anime, YouTube videos, Netflix shows, and websites you're already visiting. You can instantly look up words, see example sentences, and even pitch accent, and with the click of a button, you can save these straight to a flashcard. They even have an Anki add-on that lets you export your Migaku cards over to Anki if you prefer their SRS. What I really like about Migaku is that it's a comprehensive tool that bridges the gap between watching Japanese and actually understanding it. And you're not just passively consuming content, you're actively learning from it without breaking immersion every 5 seconds. And if you're a fan of reading, you can paste the text directly into Migaku's clipboard and study from there. It even lets you extract text from images if you only have a physical book on hand. So if you've been consuming a ton of Japanese content but still not retaining that much, then Migaku can make that process way more efficient and way less frustrating. If you want to check it out and support the channel, you can head over to migaku.com/jareddesu to get 1 month for free on me. They're also doing 10% off the lifetime plan. Alright, back to the video. So once I got into the intermediate stage of my Japanese journey, I decided to surround myself with the language more. And to do that, I switched my phone, my computer, the games and apps I was using into Japanese. So with that, even when I wasn't technically immersing or watching anything, I still had a lot of interaction with the language. Another piece of the puzzle that becomes super important at this point is kanji. And for me, there was around 4 different ways to approach this. You can either learn the 200 plus radicals, go through RTK, use Wanikani, or just full send immersion and pick it up that way. What worked for me personally was actually going through Genki 1 and 2 and Tobiro Gateway to advance to get a solid foundation in the language, and then after that, building onto my existing knowledge through immersion. Now, one big issue that I came up against time and time again at this stage was also understanding all of the words in the sentence, but still not knowing what it means. Now, there's only one true remedy to this, and it goes back to the very beginning of this video, and that's just Immerse Bro. I know it sounds silly, but the main root cause of this issue is not understanding the grammar and also not understanding the nuances of these words completely, to the point where, yes, you understand the definition, or at least the English or native language meaning of each word in the sentence, but
but when it all comes together, you don't know what's going on. And then you see the English translation and you're like, oh, duh, of course. So at the end of the day, it's really about getting more exposure, reps, hours in, and getting a more intuitive feel for how the Japanese language works. And at this point, you may also be asking yourself, well, what should the frequency of the words be at the intermediate stage? I mean, surely I'm gonna be mining a little bit more obscure stuff, right? Through my hours of immersion at this stage, I personally found that the words I was mining consistently were probably in the top 20,000 most common, but above 10,000. And yeah, with that, the words I was mining weren't popping up all the time, but they were still quite commonly used by Japanese people and still very useful in everyday conversation. So at this point, you'll have a grasp on how to choose anime that looks interesting to you, but is still fairly comprehensible, mine words, review them, and repeat, which is great. That's how you get better at Japanese. But now that you know how to do that, another important part is branching out genres. Let's just say I were to stick to detective stories and mystery stuff, you know, straight on through my entire Japanese journey, I'm gonna be missing out on a ton of political news, other very specialized vocab, and stuff from like isekai, for example, that I wouldn't get otherwise. So if you really want to build your Japanese from the ground up and keep your vocabulary balanced, you're also gonna want to watch stuff in all sorts of genres. Through my 8 years of studying, the intermediate stage is probably where I burned out the most times and just gave up on Japanese. And that's because I was on that grind set mindset. I was seeing all these YouTubers who were getting fluent in Japanese in 8 months, and here I was like 4 years in, and I was questioning my existence. I've been studying for 4 years and I wasn't nearly as good as these people. So it's really important to be easy on yourself. Don't compare yourself to others. You can only compare you to yourself. I don't know what goes on in these people's lives. I work a full-time job. Some of these people may live with their parents or be students who have all the time in the world to study. I don't have that luxury, and I had to come to terms with that and realize that it's gonna take me a bit longer to get good at the language. So I finally cooled down, came back to studying Japanese, and laid out a solid study plan. Doing maybe an hour immersion a day, doing 5 new Anki cards, and then ramping it up from there slowly to a point where I was comfortable. So it's really important to keep a cool mind, approach things realistically, set realistic expectations, and don't get into that grind set mindset. It's not about the numbers, it's about you experiencing Japanese and coming back to it every day to slowly get better and better over time. Okay, and I know this last tip is kind of cheating since this video is about watching stuff, but get into reading, seriously, especially if they've adapted it into a show or anime. I personally found it super helpful to enjoy the same source material in different mediums, going from the visual novel, the manga, the anime, and sometimes the unfortunate live action adaptation. All right, let's kick it up into third gear for the advanced section. Okay, so full transparency, I've actually just reached what I consider an advanced level of Japanese myself, but here are some important things I've learned so far. The first and most important thing is to hold on to your trigger or your reason for starting Japanese so that you can use it to effectively keep yourself motivated throughout your journey. I apologize for shivering. It is like basically, it's in the negatives out here, but with that, I found that I was giving up on Japanese quite a bit throughout my journey. I think throughout my 8 years, I probably quit about 4 or 5 times, but I found that thinking about the whole drive, the whole reason I started studying really helped me stay in it for the long run. And I'll just throw it out there, the reason I started studying was for anime, and the reason I stayed was for my wonderful host family who can't speak English. So I did a homestay, couldn't speak with my host family at all, and then coming back to revisit them 2 years later after learning it to a conversational level, these smiles on everyone's face after being able to actually hold some conversation with them was just, it was unlike anything else. And I've held on to that feeling throughout my journey, and I haven't quit since. Now, something as exciting as learning Japanese, another very crucial thing I learned was finding a community, a group of people to talk about the shows you've watched, anime, the new words you've learned. I found that having a platform to talk about your interests with other like-minded people was really helpful, especially because it almost created a sense of camaraderie and having, you know, study buddies and people to challenge each other with along the way. One other thing I've come to realize talking to people is that the advanced stage of the Japanese learning journey is among one of the longest stretches. So one of the most important things to keep in mind is to not stress. You just need to repeat that loop of finding stuff to immerse in, making flashcards, studying the flashcards, and immersing, and then just doing that until you're fluent, until you're cracked in Japanese. That's as simple as it gets. So don't stress. You've already come this far. You're already this good in Japanese, so just keep pushing and come back to it every day, and you will make it the cold is reaching my lips. You will make it you can see my breath, it's cold out here. You will make it inevitably. You will make it inevitably. I said it. And lastly, this may seem kind of similar to one of the tips I brought up earlier in the video, but exploring your hobbies and interests and expanding domains in your immersion. This also applies to reading. I think it's totally fine to keep watching stuff in the advanced stage, of course, leveling up your difficulty and choosing more and more complex content as you level up. But at the end of the day, I have found that in Japanese, and probably most languages in general, reading is very information dense, and it is one of the best ways to quickly grow your vocabulary and your understanding of the language as a whole. I do think that above anything else, as you get into these more more and more advanced levels where you're not going to be feeling that progress, that improvement day over day, it's important to pursue your hobbies, your interests as a human being in Japanese. By doing this, your life is slowly going to be converted into Japanese. You won't have as much as a need to use your native language unless you're using it for work or for friends, of course. But with this, you're going to get more hours of immersion in, you're going to get better faster, and honestly, you're just going to learn to enjoy the language more as a person. It's so cold.
Regardless of what stage you're at in your Japanese journey, I hope you found this video helpful. You can let me know by leaving a like. I also have so many more videos planned this year, so make sure to subscribe and join our Discord to stay up to date. And as always, shout out to these wonderful people for supporting the channel. If you like what I do and you want to see your name up here, you can become a channel member down below. As always, keep grinding, keep watching, and keep learning. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.